Hello everyone, this is Parth again. I'm a registered migration agent at 𝐦𝐨𝐧 Group. I'm based in Hawthorne. We are live here again. We are going to mainly take your questions. So if you have any questions, ask us in the comment section and we'll be trying to answer most of your queries. So we'll try to answer your queries, but then in case if we are not able to answer your queries because of the time constraint, then we'll try to comment on the post itself. Or you can reach out to us in any of the nearby branch. As of now, we'll wait for a few minutes until some more people join, and then we'll kick in the session. Thank you. Okay, so let's start with some recent updates and then we will start taking the questions. So firstly, we have been hearing, and also a lot of clients are actually asking us questions that elections are going to happen soon, and they are concerned that how this migration program will work in the upcoming financial year or probably years. So basically, the government and the ministers, they are also talking about cutting the migration program, the temporary visa programs, the numbers of students or number of temporary visa applicants who can enter the country. And also for the permanent visas, the government has been talking about slashing the quota. So basically, a lot of clients are actually asking us questions that what their plan of action should be and what government is expecting, what they are planning to do and things like that. Just welcoming my colleague Amol. He's also a migration agent with us. So basically, we'll together we'll be answering your questions and queries. So basically, we were just talking about the recent updates. So basically, looking at the government plan, as of now, firstly, it's not fixed which government is going to come in effect. So as of now, we don't know how the program will be for the next financial year. But then I think the program will be still better. Even though the government is saying that they will cut down the numbers of visa under permanent categories, I think it will still be very similar process as per the current financial year, mainly because up to now, people who were on 485 visas, like temporary visas, or they were also having an option to jump on the student visas. So there were more students applying for permanent residency. Now it will be comparatively lesser number of students who will be qualifying for permanent residency, in terms that people will be having their 485 visas. Once it is expired, then basically they are either going for employer sponsored visa path to apply for permanent residency, or probably they will be going back in most of the situations, so that's why number of students will comparatively decrease. Also, the government has been granting lesser students, student visas to new applicants recently, since last 1 year of time, and that's where by the time they will qualify, or by the time new applicants qualify, I think the number of applicants qualifying for this program will be lesser. So I think the program will be still effective. So you should not be much worried about that. But then it will certainly uh, affect people in some ways, because if they are cutting the numbers, it depends on at what extent they are going to cut as well. Once the program is announced, we'll get to know more about that. But then for now, I think the number of people who are qualifying under this GSM visa programs, I think will be anyway, will be remaining very similar, because good number of students have taken the employer sponsored path since last 1 year of time, when the government have stop taking student visa applications from people who are applying, who are holding actually 485 or visitor visa. So I think it should be still okay. Let's see how the program will go. Also, knowing that the government is focusing more on the employer-sponsored visas, new DAMA regions have been approved, and also the more occupations are given access to such programs. So I think that way, this program, employer-sponsored visa program, will also keep going on. And the state-nominated visa programs have been also working effectively for most of the state governments. Until now, we have seen most of the state governments have consumed most of the quota given to them. It's only few states, such as New South Wales, who hasn't fully yet used the program, the quota. But then we are also hoping from New South Wales that they conduct another bigger invitation round probably in this month or probably next month of time. It's a bit tricky now because not much time is left in this financial year for them even to approve the applications by the deadline of 30th of June. So it is becoming more trickier day by day for even New South Wales to conduct and then finalize the applications if they are going to invite people as such. Most of the other states have consumed their quota. I think Western Australia still have good number of places left, but then they already have so many applications on hand. They have been processing applications, I think, lodged around December. So it's like around 3-4 months of wait period is there. So people who were invited recently in last 3-4 months of time, they are still waiting for a final invite for them to apply for the visa. So once those quota will be updated, once the seats will be approved, then I don't think they will be having much quota left for this financial year. So that's mainly about recent changes and the talks going on in the market. We have the first question, so we'll start from there. Yeah, so if you can.
Yeah, I'll just read out the question. It is from Ashrit. He's asking, will I be eligible for skill assessment if he changes the course from MBA to Masters in Social Work? So as long as the course is accredited and you are able to get the desired English score, you will be eligible for skill assessment. So that's like pretty straightforward thing.
Yeah, it just probably that you'll have to work on English test as well, because to get skills assessment in the social work, you have to do the English test, which is IELTS academic, and you have to score that 7 bands in each of the 4 modules. They also offer an option of doing multiple sitting, so you can combine multiple, I mean, 2 results and make it 7 bands in each. So that option is there. But basically, yes, it is possible to get a skill assessment irrespective of from which course you are changing it. It is fine as long as you finish course. You also have to make sure that the Masters of Social Work course you are doing, it is from accredited university. So otherwise, there are some extra requirements to the skills assessment. So make sure that the course you are applying to enroll is the one which is accredited by AASW, the skill assessment body. If you'd like to know more, then you can contact our education team, and then they can verify you or verify for you, and we can also help you with the admission process.
Okay. So coming to the next question, it is from Rasindu. So Rasindu is asking, can we claim the experience points before the deemed date in VETASYS application?
So basically, this question is tricky in some way. Basically, it all depends on what kind of qualification you have, when did you achieve the experience, and how many years of experience, you have. As a standard practice, just to summarize it in an easy way, the government Department of Home Affairs, they says that they will consider opinion of the skill assessment body. So the skill assessment body, for example, VETASYS in your case, they says that they will cut down minimum 1 year of experience. The rest of the years of experience you can claim points when your qualification is highly relevant to your nominated occupation, right? So that is one opinion immigration consider. The second opinion immigration consider is of 𝐸𝐴 guideline. So if you refer to 𝐸𝐴 guidelines, it says that you must have a bachelor's level qualification or a diploma level qualification, depending on your occupation skill level. If your occupation has a skill level of skill level 1, then you will need a bachelor's level qualification, which is relevant to the nominated occupation. So after that, whatever experience you have, you can claim points as per the 𝐸𝐴 guidelines. So that's the second guideline government consider. And then the third guideline immigration consider is, this is that if as an applicant, if you can convince the department, the assessor, that you were performing the duties at a proper skill level, even in the initial years, the years which has been cut down by VETASes, you can still claim the points. We generally tell the clients that if you're going with the first or second option, which is if assessment body itself is saying that you can use experience from this date onwards, and if it is that many years of experience you would like to claim, then it's all good. Or the second opinion is given by 𝐸𝐴, where any experience gained post relevant qualification, you can claim points for that. So if you are qualifying in any of these paths, then it's much easier to claim points. But if you are going with the third option, where you are saying that I was performing proper duties at a like initial level itself, you may still be able to claim points, but that is assessed on a case by case basis. So immigration may consider, may not consider, depending on what kind of evidence you have been supporting. But government says that any of these three approach, whichever is more convenient to you, you can claim points accordingly. So basically, when your qualification is relevant, VETASes will cut down 1 year of experience. So you cannot usually claim 5 points as per VETASes. But when we refer to 𝐸𝐴 guidelines, it says that if you have a relevant qualification, after that, whatever experience you have, you can claim points basically. So as per 𝐸𝐴, that is more favorable for you, because you can claim 5 points as per that, if you have 1 year of experience. So basically, as per 𝐸𝐴, yes, you can claim 5 points. We have dealt with cases as such, and we never had an issue with the department. So if it is you are going with the first or second option, whichever is more favorable to you, wherever you are getting more points for your experience, you can use that approach. But when your qualification is not relevant, or if you gained experience before to your qualification, then again, we have to look at 𝐸𝐴 guidelines or the skill assessment guidelines. They says that if you have certain years of experience, after that you become qualified. So accordingly, we have to claim points. But then in a standard case, easy case, VETASes, they cut down 1 year. If you have a relevant qualification, then you can use that 1 year, claim points, and then department should not be raising concerns with that. The next question is from Anthony, is asking, are ICT business analysts getting invited anymore? Which states?
So this is kind of a generic thing. Like if you haven't mentioned any specific state, yes, business analysts are getting invited in different states, but right now the quota is almost near finishing. So the states are being very selective in terms of IT occupations, but they are more giving preference to more like medical occupations or teaching occupations. So depending on which state you are residing, the answer may vary. So, but yes, if you are talking about Victoria, Victoria hasn't been inviting IT occupations lately. But we have seen that in recent Western Australia round, business analysts were invited around 95 points for 190. Okay. So,
yeah. So we have noticed for Victoria, they have invited IT people until November. Then after, they have not invited any new applicants. So the last invitation round where they selected IT occupations were in November. If we look at South Australia, they have been inviting regularly, but then they have been very picky with the applications. With Western Australia, they did not invite until recently, but in the recent invitation round happened in March.
Yeah.
That's where they have invited IT occupations. So that is for Western Australia. Northern Territory, they don't care about your occupation. As long as you meet their criteria, then should be fine. For Queensland, yes, they have been inviting IT occupations, but again, they have very limited quota. So they were again very picky with the occupations and the number of invites. New South Wales, we haven't seen much invites, but yes, they have invited a business analyst, to what I remember. In the recent round, they have invited, I think, only community workers, social workers, I guess. Canberra, yes, they have been inviting people because they have a better program in a way. They limit number of applications. I mean, they invite applicants under different occupation group, and that's where most of the occupations get invited, whoever are eligible. Tasmania, they are again not picky with the occupation, so that's fine. So it depends basically on the state. Also, now, as we were saying, the quota for most of the states is nearly utilized. So that's why it will be tricky for you to get an invite. You haven't mentioned about which state you are looking for. I mean, which state you are qualifying for. So can't comment much on that. But New South Wales, I think they have still good amount of seats left. So they may. Ashrit is asking, is there any chance that a present conditions will change and it will be harder later? Is I think you are referring to social worker occupation, I guess.
Yeah, it's I think so. Follow-up question which he had asked before.
Okay.
Masters in social work.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like to comment?
Yeah. So see, in future we cannot predict like what will happen, but based on the current scenario, there's a lot of shortage in these occupations. So we don't see any changes happening in near future, at least for next 3 to 5 years, based on the current scenario, because not many people enroll in these courses. But although they are in high in demand, but of course there are expensive courses. So we don't see many students going for this occupation. So if you're planning to do social work, I think so for next 3 to 5 years, there won't be much change in terms of, chances or invites. And this is a very good occupation if you're planning to, switch your courses to Master of Social Work.
Just to add on that as well, I'd like to state that your competition with offshore applicants will be very limited in such occupations because there are some extra requirements offshore applicants will have to meet in order to get a skill assessment. So not many people apply as a social worker directly from offshore, but under other common occupations, IT, accounting, engineering, so many people apply from offshore as well. So it will be very competitive. So that way you are cutting the competition. Secondly, you will not find so many universities offering social worker qualification. Basically, it's not like all the universities or the colleges, private colleges will also offer such courses. So lesser competition that way. Still good number of colleges are offering that, but then not all the colleges are offering. Thirdly, there is an English requirement. Not many people will be able to clear that, and there is no exemption to that. I mean, there are some exemptions, but very few people qualify for those exemptions. So basically, that way the competition is less. Other factor is that when recently we had a meeting with department officials, so they were basically saying that they are prioritizing certain occupations and that occupations are in high shortage for next 5-10 years of time. Those occupation groups were construction occupations, teaching occupations, healthcare occupations, and community services. Apart from that, they are also saying about retail occupations, but retail occupations are not much available on the immigration occupation list for this GSM visas, general skilled migration. But then retail, I think buyer and retail manager is now added onto this CSOL core skilled occupation list for employer sponsored visa. So basically, they were also talking about retail occupation, but again, not many occupations are there. But you might have noticed they added office manager, I think, also on the CSO list. So that was, I think, part of that change. But otherwise, these four occupation groups: construction, hospitality. Hospitality also some states are giving priority. But when we had a meeting with the department, they were mainly focusing on construction, teaching, health, and community service. So that way also, I think social workers or community workers will not be disadvantaged. I mean, will be easier for them to get state nomination. Even recently, we have been seeing that New South Wales, Victoria, Western Australia, or any other state, if you look at, they have been inviting community workers or social workers easily, and then not many colleges are offering. Even for community service occupations, not many colleges are offering community service courses, or if they are offering courses, their courses are not accredited, and that's why they will have to work for 1 year full time to get a skills assessment. Also, if you do diploma of community service, they are not eligible for temporary work visa, like 485 visa, temporary graduate visa. So they will have to look at some other visa options to gain that 1 year full time experience when their qualification is not relevant. So that way, basically, less people qualify. People who are already working in those area, probably they are the one who will be studying those kind of courses. That's what we have noticed. If it is community service, for masters of social work, yes, there are people who are changing the courses and looking at doing social work. So basically, it should be fine.
Okay.
Next question is from Nitesh. Is 407 visa risky at the moment? What's the time frame for approval currently? So 407 visa, we have noticed that since department changed the criteria from 1st July last year, 2024, they mentioned that people who are on a visitor visa or a student visa cannot go for people who are on a visitor visa or a 485 visa cannot go for a student visa. Since then, so many applicants started applying for employer sponsored visa under this 407 visa category. So the government is considering or thinking that people are using this as a path, and that's why they are very strict with this 407 visa application. Because earlier, when you see the number of 407 visa applications were very less, so many people might not have even heard about 407 training visa earlier. But then since this program got closed from tourist to student, or a 485 to student, since then so many people, so many students actually started using this program as an option to extend their stay. So basically that's why the department is very strict with this 407 visa applications. If they feel that applicant is not a genuine temporary entrant, or because you already have good years of experience, good qualification, or the business is not doing well, or the business does not have a trainer who can train you properly for these positions, so based on such reasons they have been refusing the applications. About the time frame, we have noticed the processing time is approximately around 6-8 months of time, but for this application it has been taking even longer than that. So in between it was around 6 months, 8 months of time. It went down to around 3-4 months also, and then again currently I think it's taking around 8 months or more. So that's the time frame going with these applications nowadays. Even for the other employer sponsored visas, where the government was saying the processing will be very quick, 1-2 months of time, but even for other visas like 482, it is taking like 3-4 months even, so I think it has globally increased for employer sponsored visa category, mainly because of that change. Suroj is asking chances of happening invitation round in New South Wales before June.
Yeah, so I think so. New South Wales has a good amount of quota left. After Feb, the department hasn't updated the number of seats which have been occupied. So I think so till now, what we see that there will be a more invitation rounds in New South Wales. So we just have to wait. Once the department updates, there will be a good idea till when this program will continue. But right now, whatever data we have, it is only till 28th Feb of 2025. So considering the amount of seats New South Wales had till Feb 28th, I think so there will be few more rounds.
So even I'm very hopeful, but let's see. If internally they have some different plans, then it's a different story. But otherwise, as per the quota, what they have utilized, I think good chances that they should conduct another round. Maulik is asking New South Wales any rounds, 189, 194 rounds. I have telecommunications engineering and engineering technologies, both skill assessment. Applied 189 with 75, 190 with 80, and respectively for 491 in both fields. Is there any chances in New South Wales in upcoming round? So basically, as we were just saying, we don't know when they are going to conduct invitation round. They don't publish any dates as such. But then looking at the quota left with New South Wales, I think good chances that they should conduct invitation round. About your possibility, I think the chances are slim for both of these occupation, because there are so many people waiting, unless they are inviting so many people. I mean, if they are trying to fill the quota even what they have, I think still it is a bit tricky, because in such occupations there are people having 90-95 points, so I think that way it looks a bit tricky. 491, yes, there is a possibility that they may invite you under that category. Also for New South Wales, just to provide some more clarification on that, New South Wales, when they invite people, they don't just look at the points, but they also look at the breakdown of the points. So basically, they look at how much have you scored in English, how many years of experience you have, and what kind of education you have. So basically, they select people based on 4 factors: your points, English score, experience, number of years of experience in the relevant field, and your education. Education is very common for most of the applicants, so I think that won't differentiate much unless you have a PhD qualification. You means generalized, I'm saying. So most of the time it's between the points, experience, and English. So that's what can increase. I mean, probably we have seen, for example, you have 80 points. Now, if you have like probably 3-5 years of experience in Australia or overseas, then there is a possibility that they may still invite you, even though your points are less. So we have noticed recently in few rounds that people having more years of experience were invited even though their points were less. So points is still a factor, but then I think English and experience is another thing they are looking at. It's very similar to even other states where they look at years of experience and also English. These are the two main factors most of the other states also look at, but then basically in your case, I think the chances are probably slim for both 189, 190. Again, for 189 also, we don't know when invitation round will happen, how many people they will invite. But if they invite good number of people, like recently the invitation rounds are happening like in good numbers, for example, 10-15,000 numbers they have been inviting. So if they invite probably 15,000 applicants or more in the next invitation round, again, we don't know when, but if they conduct invitation round, suppose in month of May, you may still be invited with even 75. So it depends on the number of invites, and also depends on under which occupations they are going to invite, because there were some rounds where they invited 15,000 people, but only under certain occupations. So if they don't invite under your occupation, then chances are less. If they're inviting 50,000, 15,000 people, inviting under limited occupations, and your occupation is part of the limited occupation, then even with 65-70 points, you might get an invite. Under telecom engineer, engineering technology, I think there are more people waiting, but then telecom engineer, you might have some scope that way. But it's a bit tricky. Um, as of now, considering also elections coming and the government, they are making a lot of statements. So let's see how the new rounds will happen. Tessie is asking, I got 189 invite and applied for my visa on 16th December, and hence there is no communication. Since then, there is no communication. How long will it take for me to get the visa? So for 189 visa application, until recently, I think until December, Jan, government was prioritizing application for 189. But I think probably the quota for 189 is near to full, or probably it's already full. So the government have started picking 491 and 190 applications. So probably 189, I think, may take longer now. If the quota is already full or it's close to full, then probably you'll have to wait for the new financial year for the department to start processing applications as such. But as of now, we have seen the government's focus is now more on 190 and 491. So unless your occupation is a priority occupation, then it may still get processed on a priority. You haven't mentioned about your occupation, so can't comment much. But certain occupations, health occupation, teachers occupations, for example, they have been prioritized for irrespective of which visa category you're applying for. So then it's a different story. But otherwise, if quota is full, then you don't have a choice but to wait for the new financial year. And we don't know as of now how many seats they've already used for 189. Yeah. So the next question is from Kazim. What are the chances of for biologist in next year? Chances for biologist with 75 points and no job yet. People saying no future, Australian brother. Okay. You want to cover?
Yeah, for as you haven't mentioned which state, so some of the states it doesn't matter like what points you have, so it all depends on the priority factors. So we can't comment to what will happen in the next program. So based on your state, we have to see like which state would be in good demand, like which your occupation will be in good demand in another state. Maybe whatever state you are residing, it might not be in demand. So based on the demand, you can change your state and see whether you will be eligible in other state. But what will happen in June, July, we don't know. But it's not like 75 points is something which is less or which won't be fruitful for you. Of course, you can plan on building your profile and you can gain more points. But in order to get an invite, you have to meet the state criteria. If you are in Victoria, you might be aware about the priority factors. So similarly, if you are in some other states, so usually the English, as Parth had mentioned before, English, work experience, these are the factors which you can a job in your nominated occupation. If you are building on these factors and your occupation is there on the list, means you can get an invite. It's not like you don't have any hope. So hopefully, if you can specify your occupation or you can consult us, we can guide you further, like what would be the options available for you in future.
So basically, for biotechnologist occupation, points are not sufficient, to be honest. But then if you target states which does not talk about your points, they don't invite people based on the points. For an example, if you look at Northern Territory, Tasmania, or Canberra, for New South Wales, if you target 491, if you get a job in regional New South Wales in the relevant field, which is tricky, difficult to get it. But then if you get it, then they don't care how many points you have. So basically, these four states, if you target, Australian Capital Territory, regional New South Wales for 491, regional Victoria, even they don't care about your points. Tasmania, Northern Territory, they don't care about your points. They basically care about whether you meet their criteria for state nomination and how many people are qualified for that state. If we are talking about Tasmania, or regional New South Wales or a Northern Territory, as long as you meet the criteria, which is actually working the relevant field, so for 6 months of time, then the chances are very high. The problem is whether you will get a job in the relevant field in those states, which is again much because much lesser jobs are available, so the chances are very slim, that way. So that's why they are easily sponsoring people if you are just working in the relevant field. But because there are lesser people having relevant job, but it's also difficult for you to even secure a job in such occupation. Not many companies are based in such regional areas doing something similar work. So regional Victoria could be one option, but then even for regional Victoria, they prioritize people who have a superior English. So if you can get that, then that might increase your chances. Or if you find a job in the relevant field, even if you don't have 6 months of job, then also Victoria can sponsor. The last option probably could be finding an employer based anywhere in Australia, like Melbourne, Sydney, wherever, and then if they are willing to sponsor, then. But basically, I think you are saying you are concerned about the job. If you don't get a job, basically it's about changing your career into some other occupation which is more in demand, and then you may look at PR options through those occupations. That probably will be the last option then. Nitesh Sai is asking, is telecommunication occupation still in demand? Also working on a forced resident visa, can we use that experience for 482 visa or GSM visa? Would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, so based, as I said before, based on the state, it's not about the occupation. If it is there on the list, it is in demand. So it's not like it is not on demand. But so he's seeing your follow-up question. You are also working on 407. Can we use that experience? So I think so Parth would be the right person to comment on this one.
So basically for 407 visa, if you are working on a 407 visa, you can utilize that experience for both 482 and GSM visas. It's just that basically you have to prove that you were doing at least core duties of your occupation, telecommunication engineer. Basically, it's how you represent your application. That's how case officer will decide. When you apply for a 482 visa, they don't generally care much because they ask for a relevant job. They don't say your job must be at a proper skill level. So for 482, it is not a problem. When you are applying for a GSM or a 186, basically a permanent visa, that's why you have to prove that you worked at a proper skill level. So in that, you have to prove that I perform duties of a telecom engineer. I just took 407 visa to um, improvise my skills in particular section. For an example, I was just missing out on design part of telecommunication skills, so then that's where I took a 407 visa, but I was doing other duties of a telecom engineer, so then it's fine basically. So it's like how you are preparing your 407 training plan, how you are providing the experience later when you apply for GSM or a 186 visa. Based on that, the department will decide whether you perform duties of a telecom engineer or not, because it's not like you must be performing all the duties of a telecom engineer, because it's a very complex role. So even if you look at a telecom engineer in different companies, there will be different duties of a telecom engineer. For an example, if it is a smaller company, as a telecom engineer, you will be doing all around telecom duties. But if you're working for a big company in telecom, you might be just designing a component. You will not be probably testing that component, because there will be a different team will be just testing that component once the design is done. So it's not possible that you will be doing all the duties of a telecom engineer then for bigger companies. So basically government, they don't go by that, but they generally understand or consider that as long as you are doing core duties of a telecom engineer, then it is fine basically. So it's how you represent your application, how your training plan was provided. It depends on that as well. But then yes, successfully we have applied for GSM visas, claiming those experience, and also for 186 employer sponsored visas, which is even difficult than 482. We have utilized this experience and got the visas as well. So it's not about someone got the visa, but basically this is the logic behind it. Rasindu is asking, can I claim experience points if my agent missed one job in my visa, but it's in my SOP and EUI with full evidence? Can I claim experience points if my agent missed one job in my visa, but it's in my SOP and EUI with full evidence? We are not sure which state you are referring to. I think you are referring to a state nomination application, because you are mentioning about SOP, so it must be with the state. Basically, it's not about agent missed a job in the visa application form. As long as you provide the employment details, the department will consider that. So as long as you have worked and you can prove that it is proper at a proper skill level within last 10 years at a paid level, minimum 20 hours per week, then yes, you can use that. Even though someone missed it, you provide the details in the application form, attach the relevant evidence, then it's fine. But then I'm concerned that why you will have to add those details if whatever points you have claimed, if you are able to prove that, then there is no point adding another job. But yes, if you have missed adding the job details and it's a requirement that within last, because the application form says that within last 10 years wherever you have worked, you are required to provide the details. So as part of that, if you're saying, then yes. But if you're not claiming any points and if your experience is outside of 10 years of time, then it's not required that you are required to provide even documents to that, So and also, once you are invited to apply for state nomination, you are only required to claim whatever points you have claimed in your EOI or at the time of invite. You are only required to prove those many points. After that, if you say I have more points, you are not required to add any extra documents for that, or you don't have to prove or claim more points to increase your chances of visa. Once you are invited, then visa application will be processed based on the date of application only. You only have to prove that whatever points based on which you have been invited, you can prove that many points. That's it. It's not like you claim more points after you're invited and then visa will be given priority. So if because I don't exactly know the situation, so I'm trying to cover whatever situations it could be in your case and trying to answer that way. Luciana is asking, do you think that they will change point system next financial year? So basically, for the points system, government, I think a year back, 2 years back, they mentioned that they will reform a new point system in 2026. As of now, there is no information to that. Government at that time, they were talking, there were a few things going on, they were publishing new things, for an example. But then, since then, there is no update on the new point system. Also, I think because of the election period, I don't think the government is planning to make any changes unless they're very silent on it and suddenly they publish it. But otherwise, for now, there is no news about that. Chris is asking, I'm on a Dama 482 ENS in far north Queensland. My visa was granted in Feb 2025, 2 years. Just want to ask, when can I apply for permanent residency? Okay, so if you're saying I would like to apply for permanent residency under 186 visa, then usually it is 2 years to 3 years, depending on again how bargain was made when you applied for agreement. So it also depends on when your employer is willing to sponsor you for the permanent visa, but minimum is 2 years. On a higher end, it could be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, depending on when your employer is willing to sponsor you for the permanent visa, because they have to sponsor you again for permanent visa. But if you're eligible for any other visas, for an example, the points tested visas 189, 190 or 491, you can certainly look for those options at the same time, anytime as such. You can even look for it now. If you're eligible, you can apply for those visas. But if you're asking about 186 visa, which is again employer sponsored visa for it to leading to 186 under TIT stream, it is usually 2 years to 3 years. Again, depends on how the agreement was made. Okay, Kazim mentioned he's in New South Wales. Okay, that's fine. So New South Wales, the chances are, I think, slim yet, because the points is the main concern. Also, because your points are less, so I don't think you have good years of experience or the English, because those are the other factors based on which they invite people. Unless if you're saying I'm above 40 and that's why my points are less, but my English is good and I have experience in the relevant field, then you might still have a chance of getting an invite. Otherwise, you should focus on 491. Reet is asking, when switching course, if my current visa expires before completing course, would there be any issue while extending the visa? You know answer?
Yeah, so if you're extending the course, it shouldn't be a problem as long as you're studying all the, you're not missing out on your classes and you're continuing your study. No one can guarantee you the visa outcome, but as long as you are maintaining your visa conditions from your previous student visa and you're not reaching any visa conditions and you're continuing your study and you're maintaining your attendance and your scores are good, it should be a positive, but no, as I said, it is not guaranteed as such.
Yeah, basically, whichever visa has a condition or a requirement that you have to prove you're a genuine temporary entrant, or for this visa, for student visa, it's a genuine student test, for an example, where you are required to prove that you are coming here to study and then you are saying, I'll go back, So basically, in that case, it's all a case by case basis assessment. It's not a black and white criteria. So if assessor think, yes, you will go back, you are here just to study, gain some skills and you'll go back. So then they'll be fine granting the visas. But in your case, if you're saying good amount of your course has been completed while on your current student visa and you're asking for extension probably for a 6 months time or a 1 year of time, then generally we have seen department is very lenient with such applications. One of the important factors is also that when you are applying for such visas play a crucial role, because sometimes government is very strict with visa compliance and also with student visa applications. If you are applying for extension at those period of time, then visa application could be risky, even because recently in last I think since July 2024 until December, we have noticed that even very good profiles were refused by the department because the program manager have given instructions to the SSS to process applications in such way. So people who are applying for extension even for 2-3 months or even for a month of time, their visas got refused. But again, now the visa grant ratio is better. So people having even 1 year of study left, they are getting the visa. So time is another crucial thing, but then that is something we don't know when you are planning to apply. So at that time, you have to see the situation accordingly. You can apply, but otherwise consider that if you are asking for a visa extension for 50% of course or lesser, then the chances are good. Or if it is less than 50% of study you have finished and are asking for more than 50% of study visa, then it depends on what were the scenario, what were the situations because of which you could not finish your course. If you are able to explain and if the reason looks to be compelling, compassionate in nature, then government still can grant the student visa. So it depends on individual case basically. Hussein is asking, I'm on a 489 visa. If I work 1 week 40 hours and 1 week 30 hours, can I claim 2 weeks as 35 hours per week or not? So basically, I think you're asking about 887 visa. If you'd like to apply, then what is the requirement for the hours? So basically, the requirement is always that for every week you are required to work full time. For full time, usually for 887 visas, generally speaking, government says that any hours which is 30 hours or more is usually considered full time. So if you have worked for 30 hours or more, it should be fine. You don't have to make it 35 hours on an average because you worked 40 hours in 1 week, the other week 30 hours. But usually we have noticed that the government is considering if you have worked for at least 30 hours in a week. But if it is less than 30 hours, it will for sure will not be accepted. Full time is usually considered 38 hours per week. But generally with 887 visa application, the department is a bit lenient. So in that they usually mention that 30 hours to 38 hours is generally considered full time. So that way it is fine. But otherwise, you cannot make it average of 40 plus 30, 70 divided by 2, 35 weeks. 35 hours a week. And that way you can claim both weeks. That way calculation doesn't work. Otherwise, it's like someone will work for 70 hours in a week. Other week, they will not work anything. And they will claim that I work for 2 weeks, So it's not the case. Rasindu is saying, adding to previous question, I got 190 invitation from Western Australia onshore in my student visa application. Agent missed one employment, but SOP I mentioned all correctly. I don't know which SOP you are referring, because for Western Australia there is no SOP. Probably you might be referring to EOI, I guess. I got 190 invitation from Western Australia onshore in my student visa application agent. Onshore in my student visa application agent missed one employment. Okay, that's fine. You can add that employment as long as you worked, you have sufficient evidence, then it's fine. And you see whether it is really required to claim points for their employment. If it is not required, you declare that employment, but you don't have to provide any employment documents then. If you have a particular question as such, you would like to understand your application as such, then you can again consult us and we can go through your documents and advise you further about that. Luciana is asking, for cook, do you start to count the experience after certificate 3 or 4, studies in Australia and job ready program done?
If you can answer this one.
Yeah. So for cook occupation, usually the requirement is certificate 3 qualification to qualify as per the 𝐸𝐴𝐴, as per the skill assessment body. And for 𝐸𝐴𝐴, as we were referring earlier, someone was asking that can I claim points for the experience cut down by VETASYS, for an example. So it's same approach. Either we consider the skill assessment opinion, we consider 𝐸𝐴𝐴 opinion, and third thing is if you can justify, prove that, okay, I was working at a proper skill level of a cook, you can still claim the points. But we generally use the first and second approach more. If it is really required that you would like to go with the third option where you can prove that I was doing a duties of a cook at a proper skill level, even though where 𝐸𝐧𝐿 and skill assessment opinion doesn't help, then that may still be considered. We have done cases like that as well. But usually, if we talk about skill assessment body, which is TRA, they says any experience gained post certificate 3 for cook, it is acceptable. If it is for chef, it is certificate 4. As per the 𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐸 guidelines, they says any qualification certificate 4. After that, whatever experience you have, you can claim points. So if you have received a skill assessment through Job Ready program, then consider that any experience gained post qualification certificate 3, you can claim the points. As long as it is 20 hours per week, it is paid, then it's fine. Again, further your question, for being considered Western Australian graduated, you have to study 2 years full-time and face-to-face. What happens if after you do advanced diploma hybrid or RPL to have a priority? Is it okay? Or also the advanced diploma has to be, sorry, where is it? Or advanced diploma has to be face-to-face and full-time. Okay. So look, basically the state government is, to what I remember, they are silent on what is your location. Basically, they says that wherever you have, so the study institution must be based in Western Australia. If you have achieved a qualification through hybrid mode, which is online, for an example, but the college is based in Western Australia and you are attending online classes, again, you are based in Western Australia, then it should not be a problem. If you are talking about any other case, which is not the standard criteria, which is living in studying in Western Australian campus face to face, for an example, then all other scenarios will be considered on a case by case basis. If they get to know, they may raise a concern saying that, okay, no, you don't meet the criteria. But for an example, if the cutoff for graduate list and the schedule 2 list in that particular invitation round is same, for an example, so then you can still argue with them that, okay, even if you don't consider me under graduate category for the other occupation list as well, schedule 2, the points cutoff is same or lesser, for an example, so then they will not raise concern, they will still approve the application, hopefully. But basically the standard requirement is face to face, full time. Anything other than that, they may consider, they may not consider. It will be case by case basis. Sometimes they may not even get to know, so it will be fine. If they get to know, then they may ask you further questions that, okay, how come, I mean, you did not study by actually attending classes over here, so we don't want you to consider you as a graduate. That could be the possibility. So that's the thing. So consider it's a case by case basis. Amin is asking, what are the chances for 189 visa? Points is 90. Business analyst, system analyst, and security specialist also applied for 190 for Queensland with 90 points plus 5. Skill assessment and security system, security, okay, that you already mentioned. But job is technology office, a permanent job with Queensland government, not related to occupation. What are the chances?
So for 189, I think so the last invitation round which we had on 7th November, the point score was around 95. So I think so it won't go down unless there is a big invitation round. Around 90 or 95 is a answer. But how long your application has been in the queue when you applied, that will also matter in case if there is a big invitation round. If the point score cutoff goes down to 90, so that will be a factor. So there are chances that you will be invited, but we don't know if whether the government is going to conduct an invitation round immediately, because there is a change in the government soon. So after post June, July, there is a chance. But if you can increase your points, if there is a probability that you can get additional 5 points, then you should go for it. Because 95, I think so, if there is a smaller round, then it won't go down until 95. And coming to the Queensland part, I think so Queensland requirement is that you need to be working in your nominated or related occupation. I think so the way they classify the related occupation is that your first 4 digits, so whatever occupation you are having a skill assessment, so the first 4 digits should be matching in that. So to meet the state criteria, you have to meet this criteria. Unless you are not meeting the criteria, even if you make an application, they won't be considering it. If Parth would like to add something in this.
So for 189, yes, it's about having a bigger invitation round, then it may work out. You may also try and see if you can get your skills assessed under some other occupations where the cutoff was 85. For example, there was an occupation analyst programmer and software and application programmers not also classified, for an example, where the cutoff was 85 under the last invitation round for 189. Because you got a skill assessment under business analyst, system analyst, so there is a possibility that you may be able to get a skill assessment under analyst programmer. Again, depending on the duties, if you are claiming your experience. If it is your qualification, you'll have to say whether your qualification has some programming subjects. Then you may be able to get a skills assessment under that occupation. That's where the cutoff could be a bit lesser. So that may help you. And apart from that, for Queensland, as you already know, they ask for relevant job for 6 months of time. So you are not straight away qualified for Queensland state nomination. So even if you applied for 190 Queensland state nomination, there is no use for you to qualify. I mean, for there is no use of irrelevant job basically. But then again, if the program changes in July and if there's a possibility for you to get an invite, then there's a possibility as such. I think Queensland recently, they have not been asking for a relevant job to what I remember, I guess. Let me quickly double check because I don't exactly remember that for now. Because you mentioned that you applied for 190, so I'm a bit doubtful now. So just a second, let me quickly go through Queensland state nomination guideline. Just a second. Just in the meantime, we have been also asked by a lot of clients about what courses to study, whether studying early childhood will still help us or what. So just to add on that, we have been hearing, as we were also like mentioning earlier, that when we had a meeting with the department officials, they were basically saying that there were high shortage of construction people and also teachers as such. And also when you hear from recent conversations or recent marketing campaigns by the ministers as part of the election, we have been hearing that they've been investing a lot on childcare education. So hopefully, I think the shortage will be ongoing for a longer period of time. So it should not be a problem even if you are looking at studying early childhood. As another thing is also that your competition with the offshore applicant is negligible because not many people qualify from offshore as a early childhood teacher. Also, not so many colleges are offering early childhood education in all the states. It's on mainly Victoria that has more colleges offering such courses, and other states, not many colleges offering such course. However, colleges in Victoria, they have been also offering this online classes. So people from other states, they've been attending classes like that. But we have still noticed so many regional employers, they are saying that they need qualified people as such. So basically that way, I think it should not be a problem as such for even early childhood teachers. We'll also talk about other occupations, but just about your question, Amin, I just quickly gone through the requirements. So basically, yes, they have a criteria that you must be working at a skill level of an occupation, so not required to be relevant to your occupation. So that's fine as long as you can.
Graduate student.
Yeah, so he studied in Queensland, no?
No, he didn't.
He hasn't mentioned. Okay, so I mean, you haven't mentioned whether you studied in Queensland, but I think because you are saying you applied in Queensland, so I'm hoping that you have studied in Queensland, and that's where if you prove that your job as a technology officer is skill level 1 occupation, then it is fine. Also considering you graduated after 1st July 2022, because that's the criteria they have, you know. So basically for Queensland, the seats what allocated by the department were much lesser. 600 for 190, 600 for 491. So looking at that, and also I think good amount of quota have been already used by them. So looking at that, I think the chances are a bit slim. But otherwise, they have been inviting IT occupations. So even if not in this year, next year, hopefully, probably they will bargain more quota. So hope for the next financial year then, or 189 round in case if it happens. Also, you should try and get another skill assessment in case if you have some programming subjects, you may try for that assessment as well. So that might help you in both 190 and 189. Going through the other occupations, most common occupations, what students actually ask us that, okay, we would like to study, which can help us to get permanent residencies. One is teaching. That's very popular mainly because it's just a 1-year course, graduate diploma of early childhood, and there is no English requirement to that as long as you have studied in Australia. So, and because the shortage is high, supply was less until recently, but then since the government, the skill assessment body announced that there is no English requirement to get a skills assessment. Earlier, the requirement for skill assessment was that you need 𝐼𝐧 academic version of test, and you have to score 7 bands in reading and writing or 8 bands in listening and speaking module. No other exams were acceptable, and only exemption to that is if you have studied for 4 years in Australia, then you are exempted to meet the skill assessment criteria. But in December 2024, the skill assessment was taken over by another skill assessment body from 𝐸𝐼𝐻, and because of that, they also mentioned that, okay, because there is a high shortage of such occupations for temporary basis, they are eliminating this requirement. So again, so many students were also asking that for how long this requirement will be waived. I mean, not having English test requirement. So again, we don't know for now, but then as per them, when they were saying, hopefully they were targeting at least for 2 years. So for the next 2 years of time, I think they will not have this English criteria. So that's why so many students started studying this course since this year, Jan-Feb intake. But basically, people who have already enrolled in Jan-Feb intake, I think it should be fine for you. Easy, it should be easy for you. People who are starting from now probably might have to compete with more people, but I think still the shortage is high. So I think it should be fine. It's just that probably you might have to move to regional areas and secure jobs in regional areas to get at least 491. If suppose 189, 190 becomes difficult, but 491, I don't think it should be difficult for those people. 189, 190 as of now also it should be fine. Or if you are targeting some other states, like for example, so many students as early childhood teacher, they have been applying from Victoria, for example, they have been complaining that we have 70, 80 points, but still we are not invited. So probably they will have to target either 491, or they will have to wait for 189 invitation round to happen, or they will have to target some other state, because other states are still sponsoring people with lesser skills. That is for teaching occupation. We have been also recommending some students who are interested in studying or teaching in higher education. Higher education means in a secondary school teaching, that settings like physical education or sports or math, science, whatever it is. So we have been advising them to do masters of secondary school teaching, which is better in terms that less people will qualify, because for this occupation, the skill assessment criteria will still be the same of having that 𝐼𝐧 academic version. You have to score that 7, 7 and 8, 8 bands, or having at least 4 years of study. So that's why less students actually prefer that, and it's actually 2 years course, so it's more investment, more commitment, going to take longer. So it is still a better option. Apart from that, other option is social worker. If you'd like to mention about that, like how someone can qualify, why it's popular. I think he already discussed about how social worker, why it is better occupation, but still, because that's another popular course asked by the students. So that's why.
Because there's a shortage, like not many people are, enrolled in this course. So, and what we have observed in the recent invitation rounds, people with lesser points are also getting invited, like around 70, 75 points. Also, we have seen people being invited. So I think so because of the demand and supply, because there's a lot of demand and not many people are doing this course, I would recommend that people do this course as well. And point score, cutoff score for this occupation is also less. So considering both the scenarios where we can think like if you are able to get a superior score in English, so the chances of getting invitation are very high, considering other occupations like IT occupations, or if you're doing ECT also. Now the point score has increased because of the level of competition, and because, as Parth mentioned, there is an exemption in English language as the assessment body has changed. Compared to that, this one, if you are going for a social work, around 75, 80 points, if you are able to get around close to 75 points, if you have a job in your nominated occupations, getting a job in this field is also what we have observed is people are getting quite frequently. We see the clients who have their job already before they finish their course. Means there are a lot of opportunities available in market. So that is the reason we would recommend to pursue this course.
And apart from that, also we have noticed, for an example, until March end, if we look at the number of applications lodged by social workers, then approximately 100 people applied with 80 points, and then around 180 people applied with 75. 200 applicants applied with 70, which is not very high number. Most of the people who have who are studying this social worker course, they will have 30 points for their age because they are young, 20 points for their qualification in Australia. Qualification degree will be giving 15 plus 5 points for studying 2 years in Australia, so 20 that way. And good number of people will be single as such, so 10 points that way. So 60 points easily they will have. If you score 7 bands each, which is a requirement for a skill assessment, so then you will be having 70. So basically, if you have 70 points, then there are 200 people waiting with 70, 180 with 75, 100 people with 80, and around 50 people with 85. So even if you score 70 points, the competition, this is global competition. I'm saying, I'm not talking about Victoria or New South Wales in particular. This is someone who is applying from anywhere, applying from Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, applying from offshore, whichever country, doesn't matter. So with 70 points easily you can get, and then with 70 or higher points, there are around 400, 500 people only waiting for an invite. So that way the chances are high, one thing. Secondly, if you do, suppose if you can score 7 bands in 𝐷𝐿TS academic version, I think you should be able to get 8 bands easily in PT. If not, you can also work on NATI. So then your competition of at least 200 people will be eliminated if you just get 5 extra points, because with 70 points, 200 people were waiting until March, you know. So if you get even 5 points more, that you don't have to compare with that 200 people having 70 points. So then you are jumping to the next queue of 75, where your competition is with another 300, 400 people as such. And then basically, if you can't score super English, I think the chance of getting job is also good. So that way, next year, 1 year after gaining 1 year of experience, you have another 80 points. Then competition is like just 100, 150 people. So basically that way, chances are high, and also these people will be invited in between by the state government, so then the number will decrease, you know. Also, some people, they apply for 189, 190 at the same time. So if they are invited for 190, for example, those applications will be wasted from the numbers I'm talking, you know. So that way the chances are good for even social workers, both career wise and also in terms of permanent residency. Apart from that, nursing is another very popular occupation. Recently, we have seen some state governments, they have not been prioritizing nurses in recent rounds, but it's just for probably another 1 or 2 rounds of time that they have not been inviting, because there were limitation, and then limitation of quota seats available for that financial year, like because it's end of financial year. So they get a feedback uh, from the community, from the businesses, that they need, for example, people under certain occupations. So the state government will prioritize people under those occupations. So that's why it is like that. But for nurses, it is always highest in shortage occupation. So that's why it is the easiest way you can qualify for permanent residency. It's just that it's going to take longer to qualify. Lesser universities available. Intakes you don't get readily available because the intakes get full. So that's why probably if you are looking at doing nursing, then probably you are targeting next year next year admission process only. But otherwise, nursing is also good for whichever state you go for. Jobs you will easily find, and if you get a job, if nothing works, employer should be willing to even sponsor. And so many employers, actually, we have seen they sponsor registered nurses. Like if it is hospital, probably they might not be sponsoring people, but if you go to aged cares like private providers, then you should be able to get a sponsorship from such aged cares as such. Apart from that, construction occupations are priority. So if you would like to give some example of some occupations where states have been inviting.
So, okay, there's one more question. Probably we can go to this question, then we can go back. So this is about Hussein. I am on 489 visa and I need to work 1 year for requirement to get 887. But I got injuries at work and I have no capacity to work for a couple of years. Can I get a work exception and apply for 887 visa, and which year I can apply?
Yeah, so basically for work, there is no exemption as such. You have to meet the criteria of work experience of 1 year. So unfortunately, you will not have that option. Probably if you can work on the points, if you can qualify for 189, 190, that is an option as such. But otherwise, for 489, there is no waiver for work experience criteria, even though you have some compelling circumstances as such. But basically, for 489, if you have probably another 1 year of visa left, and if you can do something, a work from home as well. For example, you got an injury at work and you don't have a capacity to work because, for example, you got injury in your hand or in your leg, for an example. But if you can do some other kind of work, for an example, something which is, I think, just probably doing some marketing work, for an example, where it's about just telesales, so it's just you have to talk and sell to the people, for an example. So those kind of work, if in case you do, that might be able to help you to meet that criteria. Or you'll have to work on other factors, like again, you'll have to qualify for 189, 190, working on English skill assessment, all those things, which will be very difficult. So I think working will only help you in your scenario.
So you can work on GSM meanwhile.
You can work on the points tested visa, or if you have work experience, but then employer sponsored visa still require you to work. So I think the best possible way is that if you work in an occupation which probably permits you to work even though you have an injury. For an example, I have given you some example, working from home, doing some customer service kind of thing, or doing some cold calling kind of thing, and you get paid for that, depending on your injury, because you haven't mentioned about your kind of injury, but just giving you some kind of hints which can probably help you. Yeah, going back to the occupation construction industry. So basically for construction industry, we have trade occupations and we have professional occupation like civil engineer or a construction manager, So if you can provide some information on that.
So in construction related occupation, if you are civil engineering, what we have seen is civil engineering and civil engineering draft person, technician. These occupations have been getting more invite. But if it is more like if you want less competition, construction project manager, it is one of the in demand occupations where there is not much competition and not many people have been applying because they don't qualify for it. So you can target that occupation as well. And the other occupation which we have observed is civil engineering technician. If you have this, the skill assessment happens through wet assist. So if you are able to get 1 year of work experience, if you are working in the same industry, and if you get a skill assessment, compared to civil engineering draft person, that will be a much easier pathway because the level of competition is lesser now. Now that civil engineering draft person skill assessment criteria has also changed. So I would recommend this, you can look into construction project manager or civil engineering technician as one of the options to get a skill assessment. And trade occupations, of course, carpenter have been invited around 65, 70 points at the start of this program. Yeah, but as and when as the program has progressed, we haven't seen too much of invites. But Victoria's coming back to Victoria specified they will be prioritizing for 491 construction related occupation. So we are expecting, so whatever the rounds have been happening post November, there have been invites for construction related occupations, welder or carpenter. So that's what I can add.
Yeah, so basically for trade occupations, the cutoff is much lesser. The only problem is you'll have to work for at least 1 year to get a skills assessment under job ready program. But otherwise, trade occupations are good. If you have been working in those occupations, we have seen for 189 cutoff was just 65, and even for state governments, they have been inviting people with the minimum points criteria. So for civil engineers, it's a bit competitive. We have seen some states, they have not prioritized civil engineers, but then civil technicians were prioritized. Civil draft persons were also prioritized by some states like Western Australia. And apart from that, construction project manager, less people qualify in such occupations. So if you have experience as a project manager, then we recommend you should also apply for skill assessment or construction project manager. Quantity survey is another occupation, but we haven't seen much invites under that occupation group. But then basically construction occupations were given priority. If it doesn't work, I mean, if you are not invited by one state, you may target other state, because some other states are prioritizing such occupations, like mainly Western Australia, for an example. I think New South Wales will also be inviting people. It's just that recently they have not been inviting so many people. Also, we don't know whether they are going to fill the quota, but otherwise the construction occupations are in demand in most of the states. Even basically, if you have a job in particular state, high chances that you get state nomination. If not, you can anyway ultimately ask your employer to sponsor you. That's the last option you can have. I think that's the end of the session. We are done with all the questions. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you in hopefully next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.